Welcome to the channel Get Rich. Today, the company we are going to talk about is IndusInd Bank. So, I'll split the analysis into three categories. First, about the business and its financials and valuation. So, make sure you watch till the end. So, about the business. So, IndusInd Bank is founded in 1994, almost 25 years ago, and it has branches of around 1850 branches as of December 2019, and they also have BFIL branches. What is BFIL branches? So, they have a merger with Bharat Financial Inclusion Limited. So, it's merged with IndusInd Bank. So, they have their branches as well. So, and also they have vehicle finance marketing outlets. The IndusInd Bank in 2008, the majority of its play it's in vehicle finance. But in 2020, they emerged into a full-fledged private sector bank. But initially, they started with the vehicle finance business as its core business. So they have vehicle finance marketing outlets. So in total, they have around 4,873 branches or outlets in December 2019, and they have around 2,700 ATMs. So they spread out throughout all states in India. They have their presence in all states in India, and out of 7 union territories, they have the presence in the 5 union territories. So then, let's look up the income of any bank. So one part of the income, which is net interest income. So what is net interest income? So bank get money from depositors and they have to pay an interest to them. So the banks will lend money to borrowers and receive interest from the borrowers. So the difference between interest money they got and the interest money they paid to the depositors is the net interest income, which is the profit they make. So the second part of the income, which is fee income. So fee income comes from different sources. For example, trading and securities, forex exchange, processing of loans, and all any other fees the banks will charge you. So it comes under fee income. So let's get into the key business segments. So first, as you look in this table, first row you see interest earned, which is the total interest earned by the bank, and the second one you see is interest expended, which is around 13,000 crores, which is the interest they pay to the depositors. So the net interest income is the total interest they earn from the borrowers minus the total interest they paid to the depositors. So which is a net interest income. So they also have non-interest income, which is around 5,600 crores. So their total revenue is around 15,000 crores. And payment to employees, they have around 1,800 crores, and they have operating expenses and operating profit, and their net profit is around 3,300 crores after provisions. So if they don't have provisions, they have their net profit is around 4,500 crores in financial year 2019. So if you look the percentage of income, so the net interest income, which is around 8,840 crores for financial year 19, which is around 61% of their income, and they have 39% which they are getting from their fee income. So let's look into net interest margin. So what is net interest margin? As we just discussed about net interest income, so same like they have net interest margin. So the difference between interest they get and the interest they pay, which is called net interest margin, which denotes their profitability. So if you see quarter over quarter, in quarter 3 financial year 19, they have net interest margin of 3.83%, and it increased in quarter 1 financial 20 to 4.05%, and last quarter they have around 4.15% as net interest margin, which is quite nice, quite good compared to the industry. So if you see net interest margin over the years, so financial year 17 they have around 4%, and financial 19 they are around 3.86%. So if we compare it with leading private bank in India, which is HDFC Bank, their net interest margin from 2017 is 4.4, 2018 is 4.4, 2019 is 4.3. So which is quite comparable. So they have around 4.15% is IndusInd Bank, the HDFC they have 4.3%. So which is quite nice margin. It's good. And then coming to the loan book, where do they have loans given? So in financial 18, 40% of their loan is to consumer finance division, and 60% of their loan is corporate and commercial banking. So in financial year 19, it's around the same proportion. If you see, look into June 2019, so they increased their consumer finance division to 54% and they decreased their corporate and commercial banking to 46%. I think it's a good move. There are crises going on now, and lot of big corporates, they are going to go bankrupt because they don't get proper revenue, they don't have proper liquidity to sustain these crises. So they can go bankrupt and they don't pay back their loans. So reducing the exposure to corporate and commercial banking is a good move, and increasing it to consumer finance division 54% is a very good move. So I will show you in a minute why it is a very good move. And if you see into last quarter, December 2019, they have 54% in the consumer finance and 46% in corporate and commercial banking. So their loan book is 2,07,400 crores for last quarter, December 2019. And if you look into their division of their loan book a little bit deeper, so out of the corporate banking, so 25% they lend to large corporates, 19% they lend to mid-sized corporates, 2% they lend to small corporates. So if you look into absolute terms, it's 50,000 crores to large corporates, 40,000 crores to mid-sized corporates, and 4,200 crores to small corporates. And if you look into the other side, which is consumer finance business, which is around 54% now, so majority is vehicle finance. So if you look into details, so vehicle loans is around 28% of their loan book is to vehicle loans. So 12% is commercial vehicle loans, 2% is utility vehicle loans, 2% is small commercial vehicle, two-wheeler loans 3%, car loans 3%, tractor 2%, equipment financing 4%. They're diversified. So then they have non-vehicle loans, which is around 16%. So business banking is 6%, loan against property is 5%, credit card 2%, and others 3%. And they also have microfinance business, which is 10%, which is coming from Bharat Financial Inclusion Limited, because they merged with IndusInd Bank, so they get their microfinance business from them. So they also have microfinance business for 10%. So in total, they have around 54%, which is coming from consumer finance. These are the main proposition of their loan book. So then if you look into the corporates, so we have like different corporates. So now if you look into the sectors where they are exposed to, so 4.36% to lease rental, and 3.64% to real estate, 3.34% to gems and jewelry, 3.2% for NBFC, power corporation, steel, roads, services, telecom, housing finance, and so on. So if you look into this each sector, so one thing I want to highlight is NBFC. So there are a lot of problems going on with NBFCs. They have 3.21% exposure to NBFC, but they say in their last quarter conference call and in the presentation, their exposure to NBFC is quite diversified. They have gold financiers for 25%, and they have vehicle loans providers for 25%, and they well diversified their NBFCs, and they don't see any particular stress coming in from that sector. But what is worrying in this balance sheet is 1.2% to telecom and cellular sector. So if you see now, most of the telecom sectors, they need to pay money to Department of Telecom. Supreme Court ordered them to provide lot of huge payment to the department. Their exposure includes into all of the three main cellular companies. So it includes Vodafone, Idea. So we don't know what will happen to them. So they are already in stress. So these 1.2% can go into NPAs or non-performing assets. So and also I could see some other sectors. There can be some gems and jewelry, particularly the analysts are worried about. They have around 3.34% exposure to there, and it's quite worrying. Their NPAs are rising quite steadily. So I will come to that in some time. You see in the next column you have SMA. So what is SMA? SMA is special mention account. So you have SMA 1, SMA 2. So what is SMA 1? So SMA 1, which is principal or interest payment overdue between 31 to 16 days. SMA2 is principal or interest payment overdue between 61 to 90 days. So if you see, they have SMA outstanding of around 0.64%, SMA2 around 0.53%. So that's also, that can be a potential NPA which is coming in as an into the gross NPA or net NPA. If you look at their profitability, so they have quite good profitability. So if the NPA rises by around 1% or 2% or even 3-4%, they can absorb. But if it rises to 10%, 15%, then that's quite worrisome thing. So if you look their rating of the loans, so they have, most of their loans are in investment grade, and they have some exposure to sub investment grade, and most of them are secured fund, but some of them are unsecured. Yeah, they have very good exposure to investment grade. If this is true or if it is real, that's a really good thing. They have a very good asset quality. So now let's come to the NPA. So what is NPA? NPA is non-performing asset. So what is net NPA? So we have gross NPA and net NPA. So gross NPA is the total amount of loans which are going into bad loans, so which are not going to come. That is called gross NPA. So banks usually take some provisions for these non-performing assets. So if we reduce these provisions from the gross NPA, we get net NPA. So if you see the net NPA, which is 0.6% in Q3 financial 19, and it went up quite high to 1.21% in last quarter financial 19, and it reduced a bit. Now it's around 1.05%, which is a net NPA. So if you can compare with some other very good private banks, so we can have some idea how it is in the industry of private banks. So if you look at HDFC Bank, so they have around 0.48% NPA. Kotak Mahindra Bank, which is around 0.9%. If you look at ICICI Bank, which is around 1.5%, and Axis Bank is around 2.09%. So yeah, IndusInd Bank lies between HDFC, Kotak, and ICICI Axis. So they are better than ICICI and Axis because their net NPA is very less compared to them. But HDFC and Kotak Bank are way better than IndusInd Bank in terms of net NPA. So let's look into the gross NPA and net NPA trend for the past several quarters. So from Q1 financial year 17, they have a constant gross and net NPA. And if you see in the fourth quarter financial year 19, it rises quite high, it goes up and it stays there. So it's quite worrying because yeah, we can understand this is a crisis and a lot of banks are reporting a lot of NPAs. So if it is stays within this reasonable level 1 to 2%, this bank can easily absorb because they have very high profitability. They can absorb 2, 3, 4% of bad loans. But then if it goes 5, 10%, then that's really a very bad sign. So the main concern for IndusInd Bank is their asset quality. As of now, with the disclosure, I could see it's in good quality compared to some other banks. But then we have to see how it goes in the future quarters. So whether the NPA rises even higher or no. So then if you look at the segment wise asset quality, so the first segment is corporate banking. So they have NPA of gross NPA of corporate banking, which is 0.76% in Q1 financial 17, and it steadily rises up, and in last quarter it's around 3.2%. So gross NPA is going quite high. And if you look at their consumer finance business, it was around 1.14% in the starting of first quarter financial 17, and now it's 1.36%. So they have managed well the asset quality, or the gross NPA rise in consumer finance is very less compared to the corporate banking. That's why I said they have now higher exposure to consumer finance business than corporate banking. That's a good sign because gross NPA is not that much going up that much high for their consumer finance division. So then if you look at their PCR, so what is PCR? PCR is provision coverage ratio. So provision coverage ratio means the percentage of provisions which is taken out from gross NPA. So if it's 63% means 63% of the total gross NPA is already provided as provisions. So financial year 16 it's 60%, and if you see in financial year 19 it went down to 43%, and in the last quarter it went up by 53%. So it's good, but then if you look at the other private banks like HDFC, they have provision coverage ratio of 67%. Kotak Mahindra Bank, they have around 65%. ICICI, they have 76%. Axis, they have 60%. So when compared with other private banks, IndusInd Bank has low provision coverage ratio. So which they need to improve. I think they will improve in the coming quarters. So then CASA ratio. So what is CASA ratio? So CASA ratio stands for current and savings account ratio. So CASA ratio of the bank is a ratio of deposits in current and savings accounts to total deposits. So a higher CASA ratio indicates a lower cost of funds because banks do not usually give any interest on current account deposits, and the interest on savings accounts is very low, 3 to 4%. So they have very low cost of funds. So if they have to borrow money, then they have to give higher interest. So it's basically a cheap money. So that's why the CASA is very important. So if you look at the CASA of the IndusInd Bank, so they have around 42.4%. So then let's just compare with other private banks. So SBI, they have around 45%, HDFC, they have 39%, ICICI, they have 47%, and you have Bank of India, they have 43%. So they have quite comparable CASA ratio. CASA ratio is quite good, but then the problem is in the recent quarter, they disclosed that their deposits went down by 10 to 11% because of a large outflow from a government related account. So it will reduce their CASA ratio quite a bit. So that's also a quite worrisome thing. We need to watch how it pans out in the coming quarters. And then if you look at the percentage between current account and savings account, they have around 12% of current account and they have around 30% of savings accounts. So in total they have around 42% in the quarter 3 financial year 2020. So then fee income. So where their fee income comes from. So the corporate banking accounts for 32% of their fee income. It includes 8% trade and remittances, 8% foreign exchange, 8% investment banking loan syndication, and they have other investment banking, and they have loan processing of small corporation, medium corporation, and large corporation. And then we have consumer banking, which accounts for 51%. So foreign exchange accounts for 6%, distribution accounts for 18%, general banking accounts for 5%, loan processing is around 17%. And then you have trading and other income, which accounts for around 17%. So if we compare the trend of other fee income, so it's quite going up quite nicely. So it's a very good thing because it's mostly it's recurrent income for the banks. So their fee income is going up quite nicely. So if you compare it with the percentage of fee income which they get from the total loans, so they have around 3.4% of total loans from quarter 1 financial year 17, and it's quite steady. So in the last quarter they have around 3% of fee income, which is a percentage of the total assets. So which is also a quite good thing because they have a quite steady percentage when compared to the total asset size. Fee income, it's a very good thing. And then if you look at the cost to income, so what is cost to income? So for example, if they generate 100 rupees of income, what is the cost to get that 100 rupees? So in financial year 17 it is 46.74 rupees is a cost for the 100 rupee income. So financial year 19 is around 43.73. So it's good, it's reducing, but still there are other private companies, they have around 40%, 39%. So it's still they have more room to go down, but it's already a good number. It's not bad. So then if you look at their customer base, so in March 2015 they have around 6.8 million, and it rose to around 25 million in last quarter December 19, which is very good thing. They have their customer base which is quite nicely growing up. And if you look at the overall deposit growth, so it's growing at 20% from June 18, and it went up by to 30% in March 19, and then it went down again. In the last quarter, it's around 23%. But if you look at the retail deposit growth, it was growing quite nicely. So deposit growth, it's around 48% in the last quarter, which is always quite nice to have retail deposits growth. So it's very good that they have a really high retail deposit growth. And then if you look into operating profit to total assets, so in financial 7, so they have around just 0.9% of operational profit compared to their total assets. So in last quarter, they gained around 3.8%. Their operating profit is around 3.8% of their total asset, which is quite high number in the industry. If you compare with other banks, this is one of the best. So they have around the highest profitability compared to their total assets. So their profitability is quite good, so they can absorb some kind of NPAs. So if some loans go bad, they have some room to absorb these kind of pressures. So for example, they are having around 5,500 crores in this financial 20. So for example, their loan book is around 2 lakh crore. So 1% of it is 2,000 crores. So it's around, for example, 3% they can easily absorb, or almost 2.5% they can absorb, because that can take their entire profit. So they can easily absorb 2 to 4% of the NPAs, but then anything above that, it's going to trouble them. So let's look into their digital innovations. So the bank launched Dio Card, India's first debit cum credit card, which comes packed with a lot of benefits. So that's also a good thing. They are doing some innovations, and they also have a launch of a next credit card. So India's first interactive card with buttons. So the customers can switch between multiple payment options, regular credit card for online transactions, EMIs, and rewards. So that's also a good innovation. And then if you look into the other work, Ripple blockchain, this is a huge thing. If you are looking into the recent trends or recent developments, so cryptocurrencies or blockchain as a whole is doing lot of disruptions in the financial industry. So Ripple blockchain, so they have launched the cross-border remittance with Bank of Saudi Arabia and a Bank of Oman with live transaction that commenced from October 2018. This uses the distributed ledger technology to settle inward remittance transactions. So they can just do their remittances in just 5 minutes instead of one working day. So this is a very good innovation. So it can give future to customers to get into. So then they have Indus Direct. So they have their revamped their existing corporate mobile banking app and integrated with both Indus Direct and Connect Online. So it offers services like self-registration, self-managing accounts, cash management services, and trade services. It's also a good innovation. And then launch of banking on WhatsApp. So they launched a new service with WhatsApp Enterprise solution in India to communicate with customers, thereby becoming one of the first banks in the country to participate in WhatsApp pilot project. And then they have, look at that, they have banking on Alexa. So they launched Into Assist, an artificial intelligence based banking service that enables customers to conduct financial and non-financial transactions on Amazon Echo and other Alexa enabled services devices using voice based commands. So that's a huge thing. And then they have launched Pioneer. So Pioneer Banking, its wealth management platform, is a state-of-the-art service that effortlessly merges wealth management solutions with the personal and commercial banking products. So this is also a good innovations which is going on. They also have lot of tie-ups with several industries. For example, from travel brands such as Yatra, Make My Trip, Clear Trip, and for in food and beverages, they have deals with KFC, Subway, Pizza Hut, and Costa Coffee. In the lifestyle, they have around Kalyan Jewellers, Flipkart, Amazon, Snapdeal, and in the health and wellness sector, they have collaborations with NetMeds and Pharmacy. So they have a lot of collaborations and offers to attract customers. Then growth opportunities. What are their growth opportunities? So they have branches around 1,850 in December 2019. They are estimating to grow to 3,000 branches in 2023. Also, they want to grow the BFIL, so which is Bharat Financial Inclusion Limited, from 2,100 to 3,000. And their vehicle finance, they want to grow from 859 to 1,000. And in total, their touch points, they want to grow from 1,500 to 11,000 to 12,000. So this is a kind of growth they are expanding. And then if you look at other growth opportunities, which is in the last 3 years, if you look at any sector, for example, commercial vehicles, they grew last 3 years 21%, business banking 25%, microfinance 39%, corporate 27%. But now last 1 year growth, it's 7%, 11%, 9%. So why is it important now? Because the industry is facing headwinds and there is a crisis, and they slow down the bit, they carefully slow down because they don't want to go into some lending some and then they get locked in some kind of npas. So they are do carefully, they are reducing their growth. So once the industry comes back and if they are growing quite nicely, they can ramp up, they can grow much bigger. So this is also one of the opportunity I am looking into. And then the other thing is they have lot of rural person, they have 80% presence in rural. They have 77 lakh women borrowers, 15 lakhs retail stores, 15 lakh customers met every day. So they are present in 21 states. So they have a huge growth in the rural area. So then if you look at the income statement, their revenue grew quite nicely from 8,000 crores in March 2014 to 22,000 crores in March 2019. They are growing very fast, and their net profit grown from 1,400 to 3,300. That's because they took 1,000 crore provision in March 2019, and in March 2020 they are almost going to touch 5,300 crores of net profit. So they are growing very 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 fast, and they are paying dividend payout, it's constant. So that is a good thing. And if you look at the earning per share, which is also growing quite nicely. And if you come to the balance sheet, so their liabilities, so it grew from 87,000 crores to 2,78,000 crores in March 2019. I think they already crossed 3 lakh crores last quarter or something. And they have their reserves around 26,000 crores. So now in the last quarter, I think they have around 32,000 crore or something. So their leverage or debt to equity is around 9 or something, so which is good, but which is greater than HDFC and Kotak, but it's definitely less than some other banks like Axis, I think. So if you look at the book value, it's growing nicely from 338 from financial year 17 to around 456 in financial year 19. And then if you look at the return on asset, they have around 1.89% return on asset and 17.54% return on equity, which is very good in the banking industry. So then if you look at their provision coverage ratio, they have around 43% in March 2019, which is improved to 53% in December 2019. And they have mentioned they have three stressed groups, so which they have exposure to, which is around 1.9%. Now they reduced it to 0.47%, and their SMAs, which is around 0.34%, which is increased to 0.53%, and their standard sub-investment exposure, which is reduced from 7.4% to now 3.7%. Their net exposure to an NPA group in infrastructure, which also reduced from 1,300 crores to 814 crores. So they are strengthening their balance sheet. So it's quite good to see. But then we have to watch that they don't have much NPAs which are coming in the next quarters. So and also the other thing is the deposit is going out, because in last quarter it's 10 to 11% of deposit is gone out. That's because of their huge account from government related account, they took out some of the money out. So that's also an important thing to watch. And then if you look at the shareholding pattern, so it's around, the promoter is holding around 14.38%, it was around 16.79%, and then it's reduced to 14.38%. I think that's because of the regulatory concern, they need to be below 15%. And then the promoter pledge, they have around 24% promoter pledge. But then recently I think they paid out their loans and then they revoked their pledge shares. I think that's a good thing. And the promoter holds around 14.38% and mutual fund holds around 10.86%, FIA around 55%. And look at the FIA plus DIA holding, it's increasing from 60% to almost 72%. FIA and DIA are buying December 2019. And also the recent news, if you see, their FIIs are rushing to buy IndusInd Bank, because if you look at the FII, it's just 55%, and if the total from FII plus DII is around 72%, but now the FII is increased from 55% to almost 72%. They are still buying, and the share crashed from 1800 to around 250 rupees, and FIIs are still buying in the stock. So why they are buying, I don't know. They are finding a value in there. So the regulatory limit is 74% for FPI. They already reached 72%. So SEBI already told that they can only buy 2% of their share capital in the coming quarters. So it's really a huge positive for the company. And also the other thing is the promoter. If you look at the promoter, which is Hinduja Group, so they own Ashok Leyland and other very good companies. And the Hinduja Group, they are a very big British-based company, and they have around revenue of around $50 billion. So that's a huge group which is backing the bank. So that's also the huge plus for the bank. So if you look at the valuation, the price to book, if you the average price to book is around 2.4, and they traded around 4.3 in September 2018, and now it's trading at 1 price to book. And the PE, which was trading around 32.8 in September 2018, and the average PE is around 18.5. Now they are trading around 7.5 PE, which is a very very cheap valuation. So if you look at the revenues, so from financial year 2016, it increased from 12,000 crores, and this financial year it's around 28,000 crores, and they are going to increase to 50,000 crores. I am projecting the revenue growth 20% year on year, and the net profit to grow about 25% year on year. So they are going to reach 10,000 crores in financial year 2023. So I'm going to estimate with the current valuation, which is price to book 1. So in 1 year they are going to reach 564 rupees. In 2 year they are going to reach 660 rupees. In 3 year they are going to reach 772 rupees. So price cumulative growth is 19%, 38%, and 63%. So this is very very cheap valuation. But then the average PB valuation is 2.4. But then I am estimating with the conservative 2, because there can be asset quality issues, because we don't know as of now. If we look at the results which we have, or the data which we have, it's quite good asset quality, I can see. But then the asset quality, we don't know how it pans out in the coming quarters. It's a headwind going against, and there is a crisis, and lot of companies are closed down. So they have exposure to 20% to mid-sized companies. If they are under pressure, they are going to have huge NPAs which are coming. So one need to be very cautious about these asset quality issues. So if you are a conservative investor, I don't recommend you to invest in this stock. But if you are an aggressive investor with huge risk to reward, so you can put some small amounts of allocation for this bank in your portfolio. The promoters are good, the company are good, they are doing good, they have good management, and also they had a recent management change. So the MD and CEO retired, and then they promoted a consumer banking head, which was internal head. They promoted to MD and CEO, and RBI approved it. So there is also a management change, but then I don't think there will be a much problem, because and she is there from 2008. So I feel it's okay, it's good, but then one need to be very very watchful about the asset qualities in this company. So I am estimating conservatively the price to book of 2, with 1128 rupees for 1 year, 1320 rupees for 2 years, 1544 rupees for 3 years. So which is 137% growth for 1 year, 178% growth for 2 year, and 225% growth for 3 year. But then don't allocate huge allocation. But then if you are a very 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 risk taking investor, you can allocate much, because the reward is very high. But then also the risk is also there, because the asset qualities, and in this kind of environment any bank is risky. So that's all I can say. So also do your due diligence before investing in any stock. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.